So welcome, everyone. Good morning. I'm Matthew Burke at the University of Vermont. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been quite a process to get here with all the changes. So I'm very, very pleased to have the group that we have joining today. To start, as we consider our relationship to land, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. And I acknowledge that the University of Vermont exists within the unceded traditional lands of the Abenaki Nation. I acknowledge the Abenaki community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement expresses a commitment to begin the process of dismantling an ongoing legacy of exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples here in Vermont, a place the Abenaki Nation calls the Dawnland. Thank you so much for joining this workshop again on solar energy in Vermont's working landscape. My name is Matthew Burke. I'm a postdoctoral associate with the Gund Institute for Environment and the Leadership for the Ecozoic Project at the University of Vermont. I'd like to ask Jeannine Valcour of the Gund Institute to provide a few words on the APIS Fund, which is in part supporting this workshop. So I will mute, and then Jeannine, if you can jump on here.
Hi, thanks, Matt. I'm here just to do a little introduction, and then I'm going to have to jump off just to let you know. But I'm with the Gund Institute. I'm the research coordinator, and the Gund Institute, as many of you know, connects the university to the world, accelerates research, and brings scholars and decision makers together. We focus on specific themes, which are climate, health, sustainable agriculture, and resilient communities. The APIS Fund is the result of an anonymous gift that was directed towards catalyzing projects that support vital bee pollinators. The APIS Fund, it advances knowledge necessary to sustain pollinators and the contributions they make to society, supports research, conservation, training, collaboration, and outreach efforts. And it can be ecological, economics, management, or and cultural importance of bees and pollination. So this particular project is one of the awardees of the first year of the APIS Prize, and we will be giving out more. So we expect to have another RFA this fall, towards December. Well, it could be in the next couple of months. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me or the Gund, and we can give you some more information. Good.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeannine. I really appreciate it. And thank you again to the APIS Fund. So I need to move some things out of my screen. But okay, so can you see this workshop overview?
Yes.
All right. So thank you again so much for joining us for this important conversation on the future of energy in Vermont. I'll provide a brief overview of our workshop. So our broad objectives include sharing and extending knowledge and experience involving a set of practices for solar energy development, strengthening collaboration and leadership regarding these practices, and shaping policy practice and decision-making to better enable this work. And I'd like to point out too that our meeting and current work on this topic builds from previous efforts of the Vermont Pollinator-Friendly Solar Initiative. And we're pleased to have members of this initiative joining us this morning. For our agenda, I'll provide some introductory remarks, and then we'll proceed with our first panel of 4 speakers plus a Q&A period. We'll take a mid-morning break. We'll return for our second panel again of 4 outstanding presenters. And then after a very short break, we'll split into breakout groups for what we hope will allow an engaging mask-free small group discussion. We'll then briefly reconvene to report back and on these discussions and aim to conclude by 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Your hosts and the core organizing team for this workshop include myself, as well as Alex DePillis, Senior Agricultural Development Coordinator with the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food, and Markets, Kimberly Hagan, Grazing Specialist, University of Vermont Extension, Stephanie Hurley, Associate Professor, UVM Department of Plant and Soil Science, and Jason Mazurowski, a consulting ecologist with the Gund Institute. And we also would not be here today without the technical and practical and emotional support of the L4E crew, Daisy Padilla and Dina Spigelski. So thank you all. And our workshop assistants and recent UVM graduates, Faith Novella and Monica O'Malley. So thank you so much all. We'd also like to know a bit more about all of you. So we'll now introduce our first of our two polls. Daisy, is that something we can launch?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Do you want me to remind people about the logistics again?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, because I see more people joining.
Yeah.
So just as a friendly reminder for the group, we have some meeting logistics that are important to follow in order to guarantee a successful workshop. So stay muted unless speaking. It's important to know that we are recording, and you are able to adjust your speaker and gallery view, and please type questions into the chat. Thank you.
So with this first poll, we're going to start with two polls for all of you, and we'd like to get a sense of who else is here with us this morning. So we're asking you to respond to this question. What role or roles do you bring to this discussion? And you can select as many as you like. And I believe Daisy will launch this poll in just a moment. Okay. And just take a few moments to answer as many as you like. And we'll just allow this to go for another maybe 5 or 10 seconds, if you would. Sorry for those at the bottom of the list. Hopefully you can find your way down there. Okay, so why don't we 5 more seconds and we'll close it. All right, go ahead. We'll close it and then we should see the results.
Should I end it now?
Pardon me? Yes, please. And we'll share the results. Okay, can people see the poll results? Is that visible? Great. So we do have a pretty good mix of people and a great breadth of experience both on the panels and among those who are in this space with us today. So please keep that in mind. And I really appreciate you responding to that question. I'm going to stop this. We're going to do one more poll, if I can. Get my slide to advance. One second. Okay, second poll. Nope, we're back to the first one. Sorry about that. Good. Okay, so we're asking here, which of the following practices do you recognize and understand as valuable for solar energy development in Vermont? And again, you can select as many of these as you like. And go ahead, Daisy, and launch this poll if you would, please. Which of the following practices do you recognize and understand as valuable for solar energy development in Vermont? So this is trying to get a sense of what understanding we have of these practices coming in. And again, we'll allow a short bit of time to respond. And maybe another 10 seconds, Stacy, and then you can close it. And I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, can everyone see the results there? Stacy, is that visible? I guess you're the host, you may not see.
Yeah, it's visible by now.
Okay. Outstanding. Yeah, we already bring into this discussion a lot of experience with many of these practices, and we'll see how we can deepen that experience as we go. So thank you so much for engaging with those questions. And again, you can adjust your view if you like at the top of your screen, speaker view or gallery view. We are going to proceed in just a moment into the first panel. I just want to make a few introductory comments to our workshop. And we're focusing here on this idea of an integration of a set of existing practices within solar photovoltaic installations. The premise then is simply that while we realize that a transition is necessary to renewable energy, we also recognize that there are more desirable and less desirable ways of doing that transition, and that we wish to commit ourselves to finding better ways of transitioning. So that involves many concerns, obviously: equity, access, life cycle and supply chains of the technologies, worker health and well-being, and the need and purpose of our energy and energy systems. Today, we're going to focus our attention on the implications and opportunities of this transition on the land and all of those who work within the landscape. The practices we'll examine here together follow from a basic, I see as following from a basic respect for place and a desire to integrate our energy technologies in a way that cares for the communities, human and non-human, and that constitute this working landscape. And we need to acknowledge that Vermont faces many challenges as we're trying to do this transition. We witness an ongoing loss of biodiversity. We see loss of farms and farmland. We see fragmentation and loss of forest land, loss of jobs and meaningful work, and an inability to make the sufficient progress towards our renewable energy goals. So this work, I suggest, aims to reverse those trends. And the vision, in short, is one where people, land, and technology are mutually supportive, even as we recognize the many challenges on the ground. The vision here is not new nor unique to Vermont. This work that we're calling agrivoltaics, or pollinator or bird-friendly solar, co-location, and so on, has been tried and tested for decades around the world. But what could be new is this growing recognition of the importance and value of these practices and the emergence of networks of people sharing their knowledge and experience. And we're going to hear some of that here momentarily. So today we're asking, within this context of Vermont's working landscape, how do we make this vision work in practice? What do we know and what do we still need to learn? And how do we take these practices that are still the exception and make them the norm for guiding the energy transition in Vermont? So we're fortunate to host two highly experienced and committed sets of panelists, as moderated in turn by Kimberly Hagan and Alex DePillis. Thank you again for joining us this morning. I'd like to now hand it over to Kimberly for our first panel. And a reminder, please enter questions into the chat as we wrap up the final speaker of the panel, and we'll do our best to get to them during the